Okay, hi guys, welcome to this video, and today we've got a photo quest. We're down at Westonbirt Arboretum for their Christmas Spectacular. Okay guys, so today's photo quest, we're heading down to Westonbirt, and they've got their Christmas festival on at the moment where they do a very special illumination of all their trees and area. So we're going to go down there and see if we can photograph that. It's very similar actually to what you find in some of the cities these days where they illuminate buildings and shine different projections on buildings. They're basically going to be using lights to illuminate trees, and I've done a little bit of research on this. I've just had a look using Google and Flickr to see what previous years people have been taking photographs of. So I've got a little bit of an idea of what to expect. I've not been down there myself, so this is all going to be new to me, so I thought it'd be quite a good challenge to go down there and have a go at that. So let's quickly talk about, before we go, what kind of settings we're going to be using and that kind of thing. First of all, I am going to be using a tripod. There shouldn't be any issues over there, I don't think. We're using a tripod, so I'm going to have my tripod with me, and that's just really going to allow me to take long exposure pictures, because I know for sure that being nighttime, being in the woods, I know the trees are going to be illuminated, but I don't think I'm going to be getting any exposures where I can handhold, at least not without really boosting my ISO. Now the problem with boosting my ISO is that I'm going to get really grainy pictures, so I want to take the best quality pictures I can. So I'm going to be shooting on an ISO of around about 100. I'm going to try and stick to that, so I've got a nice smooth image, no grain. And I'm just going to use a longer shutter speeds, so that really shouldn't make a bit of a difference. It's quite a mellow day today, so there's not really high winds around, and that means that the trees shouldn't really be moving that great either. Now if the trees are moving a lot, I might have to reconsider that, but I think we're going to be alright for today. The weather forecast is good as well, so I've already gone out and looked at the weather. I'm not going to expect any rain or anything like that, so I don't need to cover that. But I'm going to be using my tripod. The other thing I am going to be using, that's going to be my cable release. Now basically this means I can plug that into the camera, and when I do take the picture I'm not going to get any camera shake. Otherwise sometimes if you just press down on your camera, there's always a risk of getting that tiny little bit of shake at the beginning. The other way around it would be to use a self timer. You can put on a 2-second self timer, in which case you press the button, 2 seconds later the shutter then opens. Now that's okay, but I'd like to just be a little bit more precise. I want to open the shutter when I open it. There might be other people around. I might have to try and dodge people when they're walking in and out of the photograph. So we'll see what happens, but I'd like to have a little bit of control over it, so I'm going to use my cable release. Probably not going to use bulb setting. Bulb setting is a setting where we leave the camera shutter open for as long as we want it. I'm going to try and use the camera on manual, so I'm going to control everything. I'm going to control what aperture you're using, and I'm going to control what how long the shutter's open for. But I don't think we're going to need to use bulb. I don't anticipating having photographs longer than 30 seconds to expose. Now in terms of ISO, I am going to probably try and aim somewhere in the middle. I want to be aiming for about f8, f11, and that's going to give me a nice depth of field, I think. So that's what we're going to be aiming for. It just means that at that kind of aperture, the hole is a little bit smaller. It's not letting as much light into the camera, so I'm going to extend the shutter speed to compensate for that. Hence the reason for using the tripod and the cable release, etc. Okay, so that's kind of settings I'm going to be using. Lenses, I've got my 24-105 on the camera. That's one I'm going to try and use as my default lens. Don't want to be swapping lenses around all the time if I can help it. However, I realise that I'm going to be in the woods, and some of the trees over at Westonbirt, I've been there before in the daylight, they're big. So I'm not quite sure how close we're going to be and whether I need to actually get a wider shot. So in addition to that, I am going to take my wide lens as well. So this is my Sigma 10 to 20mm lens, which goes on my Canon 60D here. And that's just going to allow me to get super wide if I want to, but I'm hoping that 24mm end of the lens is going to be wide enough, and I've got the zoom on there to go up to 105 as well if I want to get in on some details. So I think that's going to be okay in terms of equipment. The other things that I've got to think about is that I need to be able to see what I'm doing, so I'm going to be taking a torch. Now you could just take along a normal torch like this. However, when I'm usually doing night photography, I don't like to use standard white torches, as I call them, which gives you a nice white light, because they're quite bright and they do actually ruin your night vision. Okay, if you go and talk to any astronomer who messes around and looks at stars and all that kind of thing, the torches they will always use is actually a red torch. So red light, that area of the spectrum is actually better, and this is just basically a bicycle torch that I use, but it gives us a nice red light, so it's enough that we can still see the equipment on there, but it doesn't ruin your night vision. So that's the torch I'm going to be taking along with me, and it just means I can also see on the ground if I drop anything, or I just want to check around where I am when I'm setting up, that I'm not going to be tripping over anything or anything like that. It's just handy to have a torch with you, but mine's torch of choice is going to be a red torch, and that's just going to help us a little bit better, really. The other thing just really to think about, when I'm doing this quest, it's going to be cold, so I'm going to be armed with hat, gloves and scarf, so I apologise for the look right now, but with the gloves I'm going to be using, actually I use these ones here, which are basically a thermal glove, but they're very thin, and they have a grip on it as well. They've got these special grips that can help you, so I can use the camera. I don't have to use fingerless gloves where my fingers still get cold, but I know it's going to be cold out there. It's going to be going down to sort of 1 or 2 degrees probably whilst we're out there. Okay, so that's it. I think I'm ready to go. It's still light here at the moment, but we want to head down there. It's a little bit away to travel, so we're going to go down there and see what photographs we get. Okay, that was great fun. We seem to have got some really good shots in there. The light meter was playing around a little bit. Sometimes it got the exposure right and sometimes we adjusted it. But it was really useful to get a ballpark figure, so if we then needed to even make the image a bit brighter or a bit darker, we could, because we were shooting in manual mode. But yeah, got some really good shots. Had a really good photo quest here down at Westonbirt. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again soon. If you liked the video, please click on like and subscribe to our channel.